In the midst of the Donald Trump-Elon Musk civil war, one might not think it possible for any breakup to be messier, more destructive, or humiliating to anyone in MAGA world. But that, fortunately for us, is not the case, because Stephen Miller and his wife are having some of the worst public humiliation we've ever seen out of MAGA world because of her split with Trump, her move to Elon, in the war that is apparently, reportedly, according to Stephen Miller's wife's own friends, happening between the two of them. We're going to get into it all and how Stephen Miller is freaking out for a whole host of reasons related to Donald Trump's failing immigration plan. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way, and it really does mean a lot to me. Now, Stephen Miller is not just panicking and losing it lately because of the humiliation caused by his wife leaving him for Elon. It's also because of his failures at work, which Robert Garcia detailed in the protest and the combatant to ICE that I want to take a look at right here before we get into that shocking report on their relationship.
But I'm curious what you think of them pulling folks from the other agencies, right? IRS agencies getting pulled up into this operation at large, for example.
And this is really a huge problem. So here's, before I got to Congress, I was mayor of my city of Long Beach for 8 years. Law enforcement should be focused on law enforcement, making sure keeping people safe. What's happening here, and I think the concern for a lot of us, is we're actually essentially now bringing in all sorts of people from agencies to do Donald Trump's bidding. These are folks that should be going right now after transnational criminals. These are folks that should be actually keeping the country safe. They should be focused on keeping our ports of entry safe. They should be focused on going after people that are cheating and scamming the American public. But instead, what's happening, we're forcing them to go visit children in our schools. We're forcing them to go out and conduct these raids on innocent people, and oftentimes without due process. So this idea that we're now trying to mobilize the entirety of the federal government for Donald Trump's deportation agenda, which is not actually focused on criminals and folks doing crime, but hitting some sort of quota, I think all Americans should be concerned about that.
I have been so proud to see the protests of Donald Trump's illegal and immoral deportation plan standing up to the masked ICE thugs who are trying to carry out their disappearings, their kidnappings across the country. We cannot stand for it. We cannot allow it to happen. The very reason that we are seeing Abrego Garcia brought home to receive the due process that he deserves is because of the agency we've exercised, because of our voices. We need to continue to fight, especially because it is causing panic within the Trump administration. Like I said, this was the key issue for Stephen Miller. He's the one who wanted Donald Trump to be a dictator, to suspend habeas corpus, to do whatever he wanted, breaking the law for his mass deportation plan. And now everything's falling apart. So he was freaking out on air. We're going to check that out. And then we're going to get into the big report on him and his wife.
The Department of Justice has indicted the illegal alien terrorist from Maryland, the so-called Maryland man, who is actually a foreign terrorist from El Salvador, to make him face justice for his monstrous crimes against humanity. Another huge win for the Trump administration. Thanks to weeks of investigative work, this illegal alien monster is going to be held accountable for his terrible crimes against women and children. And then guess what, Sean? After he does hard time in an American jail, guess where he's going? Right back to El Salvador. What do Democrats have to say about this now? They celebrated this guy. They worshiped this guy. They treated him as a hero. Now he's been indicted by a grand jury for committing some of the most heinous crimes I've ever read about. He's going to do hard time in our jails, and then he's going back home where he belongs, to El Salvador.
Stephen Miller does not know what a huge win even is. After the Supreme Court demanded, they said Donald Trump explicitly had to return Abrego Garcia. They had to effectuate his return. Stephen Miller lauded that as a win, saying that the Supreme Court was on their side. So them caving now when they were so staunchly saying a couple months ago that absolutely we won't be bringing him back. No, this is a loss, and it shows that this White House will bend. And of course, it's bending a lot right now from outside with Elon Musk attacking Trump, and apparently from within the entire time Musk was there, because new reporting reveals that not just was there problems with Stephen Miller and Elon now, but problems existed with his wife and Elon in Trump. It is all a mess. The White House is now being asked all about it, and I bet you can guess what their response was. We're going to take a look. Stephen Miller's wife torn between two men as White House breakup rages. Katie Miller, the wife of a top Donald Trump aide who now works for Elon Musk, is in a tricky situation amid the two's messy breakup, her friends told the Wall Street Journal. Miller, 33, is the wife of Stephen Miller, 39, the high-profile staffer who masterminded Trump's mass deportation initiative. Having risen through the ranks of the White House herself to become a top DOJ aide, Musk took Miller with him to work in the private sector upon his exit from government and then promptly torpedoed his relationship with Trump and his supporters. Musk and Trump, of course, have been exchanging a flurry of blows since Thursday, with the ugly spat temporarily cooling off, but we don't know what the future will hold. Friends of Katie Miller, Stephen Miller's wife, who declined to speak to the Journal herself, told the paper that she has conflicting interests, which has made the breakup between her, Trump, and Elon especially tough. When the Wall Street Journal requested a comment from the White House confronting Stephen Miller about the scandal with his wife, they did not respond to this story. This isn't the first time Miller has found herself torn between Musk and Trump, though. Insiders told the Journal that tensions flared on occasions when senior White House staffers didn't feel that Katie Miller was doing enough to push Musk to operate in step with the rest of the administration. Miller told some people that she was struggling to keep up with the pace of Musk's eccentric behavior as he gutted agencies and slashed funding. I have been talking about this throughout the Civil War, that this goes so deep. Apparently now, reporting from White House insiders and Katie Miller's own friends are saying that she was siding with Elon long before he stole her, so that adds a little bit of context there. But the White House being asked about this story, Stephen Miller, as someone who is a spokesperson for Donald Trump, being confronted with this and refusing to answer is so hilarious that amid just the worst news cycle that Donald Trump has seen throughout his administration, he is being confronted with this humiliation as well. It is the karma he deserves for a mass deportation plan that is failing because it is immoral and it is illegal. This is a humiliation for Stephen Miller, and it has been so beautiful to watch. And not just that, but of course, the policy failure as well of Donald Trump's illegal deportation plan that was broken down by Nicole Wallace and Tim Miller right here.
And so I think that rather than focus on that, like the political opportunity for those of us who've been fighting for due process rights for the people that have been sent to El Salvador, is to take the lens back and say, look, our government kidnapped about 250 to 300 people and sent them to a foreign prison. They didn't deport them. They sent them to a foreign prison with no due process. And some of those people might be very bad people. Some of those people might be criminals. Some of those people might be illegal immigrants. Some of those people might have done absolutely nothing wrong. We know at least that a handful of them came to the country legally, through legal process. We know at least in a couple of specific cases that it feels preposterous to think that a makeup artist, was part of Tren de Aragua, for one example, when it comes to Andre Hernandez Romero. And so I think that talking about that and saying, well, look, you guys could do it right if you wanted to. And Pam Bondi said in that press conference that this is American justice. It's like, no, it's not. American justice is you have many options. They could deport people through the normal deportation process, or they could do what they just did today and show to a grand jury, show to a court of law that the men that they disappeared to El Salvador, all 200 some odd of them, committed crimes. And I think it's pretty clear that that is not the case. I think it's pretty clear that we wrongly sent some people there. They are going to try to focus on Abrego Garcia because they think the specifics of that case is a winner for them politically. But I don't know. I think that there is also an opportunity in the fact that they've demonstrated they can bring people back, and they should bring those the folks back that they wrongly deported. And I should just say right after this, I'm going down to Supreme Court, and that we're having a rally with the Immigrant Defenders Law Organization that's defending Andre and the other Venezuelans that were wrongly sent to El Salvador.
Tim, let me follow up with you, and I know you're involved in those cases, but let me just not let the news cycle get so charged that we forget what we learned from the Trump administration itself. Tricia McLaughlin, a Department of Homeland Security spokeswoman, said in a statement on May 21st, Mr. Abrego Garcia's deportation was part of a, quote, highly sensitive counterterrorism operation with national security implications. I mean, the Attorney General of the United States of America just stood before the world and said nothing about a, quote, highly sensitive counterterrorism operation with national security implications. The DHS spokesperson on May 21st, about 8 days ago, went on to say, we invoke the state secrets privilege over many of the details. Of course, our officials discuss what should be divulged publicly. This just proves they're responsible public servants. You know, their stories have changed so many times. I guess that's my point. I want to share one more piece of information about this specific case that we know from the Trump administration itself. The Trump administration, a mistake had been made. That much was clear. The Trump administration had deported a Maryland man named Kilmer Abrego Garcia to a prison in El Salvador, even though a judge had issued a ruling prohibiting that from happening. When news reached DHS, it set off a days-long scramble and clashes among officials in 3 different agencies over how to deal with what everyone knew had been an error. As it became clear that keeping it quiet was not an option, DHS officials floated a series of ideas to control the story that raised alarms among the Justice Department lawyers on the case. In the days before the government's error became public, DHS officials discussed trying to portray Abrego Garcia as a, quote, leader of the violent street gang MS-13, even though they could find no evidence to support the claim. I guess my question is about, you know, the evidence will stand in a court of law and a jury will decide its veracity. So I'm not making any comment about the evidence. But the process, in terms of what we know from Trump senior officials, feels reverse engineered.
Absolutely. I just want to say first, I'm only involved in these cases and to the extent that I'm a person that watches the news and has a podcast and is very upset that our government is kidnapping people and sending them to foreign gulags without giving them due process. And I'm going to keep talking about it until those folks are freed and given their day in court as they deserve. And I think that to your point, like the one thing that we know for sure that is evidence today by what Pam Bondi brought forth in that press conference is that they've been lying about this. Like from day one, they've been lying to the courts and they've been lying to the public about the rationale and the case for sending Abrego Garcia to El Salvador. So maybe there is a good case for a grand jury to put him behind bars in this, or to, you know, to suggest that he have a trial and then have a jury put him behind bars in this country. Maybe there's a good case for that. We'll find out. But we know that their case for why they needed to send him to a foreign prison without any due process was premised on false statements. And we know that just by that list of things you just laid out. And that matters. Like, our government cannot just make things up about people and use it as a rationale to send them to foreign countries. That's not how things work in a free country, no matter whether that person, you know, has other legal issues which should be adjudicated here in this country.
The reason that Abrego Garcia is coming home to receive the due process that he deserves is because of us, because we fought back, because we used our voices, and we need to continue to do so. We're certainly going to be on this show every single day. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video, and if you stuck around at the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.